Okay. Welcome, everybody. My name is Mark Fong, and I am your academic account manager. Today, we are going to be doing a quick introduction to Westlaw Precision. I definitely encourage you to follow along with me. You're going to want to go to westlaw.com, or you're going to go to, and I'm going to pull the screen up now, lawschool.thomsonreuters.com. This is actually one of the first pages I'm going to show you today. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. The highlights, let me close some windows here. You obviously have access to Westlaw Precision. Other things to note, if your school's using TWEN or your class is using TWEN, you can go ahead and access TWEN here. Practical Law has a host of great materials, from standard documents or templates to practice notes, so that you can actually know how to apply the law into real practice. Drafting Assistant Essentials, something else I'm going to point out. Drafting Assistant is going to help you format all your citations correctly. It also has a tool called TOA builder, table of authorities builder. So if you have to draft a table of authorities, sorry, people are still coming in. If you have to draft a table of authorities, go to Drafting Assistant instead of doing it manually, which can take you an hour or so. Drafting Assistant, you upload a document and it can be done in under 5 minutes. So pretty quick, pretty fantastic right there. Okay. Other things to note, the Law School Survival Guide. We have some free Quimby materials associated with some of the different articles that we have in here. So I recommend the outlining and the legal research modules. They have, like I said, a bunch of articles, but they also have some Quimby materials. We partnered with Quimby, and so we have some really cool stuff on the site. Last thing I'll show you, on-demand learning. If I'm glossing over something, or if something's taken a little, you're going to need a little more help with it, on-demand learning is going to be able to help you out. Take a look at the topics. If you're having trouble with cases, for example, here's a good place to go. You can also get certified. If you get certified, you can add that certification to your LinkedIn. The videos are no more than 7 minutes. And there's one or two small quizzes in there. Pretty convenient way to get familiar with the different legal research methods that you're going to need for your law school and your legal career. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the presentation. I think I've bought enough time for people to join in. Let's go ahead and get started. Once again, if you do have any questions, feel free to email me at mark.fong@tr.com. All right, so I've broken up this agenda to something that I'm sure you can all agree is logical, right? When you get your research assignment, when you get your task from your supervising attorney, what do you do with that information? How do you start? Okay. Once you start, you're going to start getting that ball rolling. You're going to be familiar with the legal issues, and you're going to find primary authority. Once you've found that primary authority, what then? What do you do with that legal research that you found? And then, of course, we're going to want to know how to wrap up everything. How do we know when we're done with the research? How can we feel confident that we found everything we needed to? I'll show you that as well. All right. So again, these are the things that we're going to be taking a look at. Let's go ahead and jump into Westlaw. I'm going to pull up Westlaw and show you this over here. And we have Westlaw Precision logo up here. Note that there's a drop-down menu. You can access a lot of these things like Practical Law Drafting Assistant right from this menu here. Okay. From the Westlaw homepage, you're going to notice a few things. The first and foremost is the search bar. This is West Search Plus. That's our fancy name for a fancy tool. In addition to being able to search key terms, you're also going to be able to do a lot more. For example, you're going to be able to answer questions, legal questions that you might have. You're also going to be able to input a citation to a case or a statute and go directly to that document. Let me show you what questions you can put in here and hopefully get some quick answers. Anything that has elements, okay? Elements, it's a pretty basic question. What are the elements of burglary, for example? There you go. Right out of the gate, we're going to see elements of burglary. If I click here, we're going to get an answer to those the elements of burglary. But we're also going to get, and this is just as important, primary authority that we can cite to. Okay. You're going to want to find that answer, but you want to support it with some good primary authority. And we're going to cover that later, but I just want you to know you can put legal questions in here. West Publishing, which is what Westlaw is based on, has been around for 100 plus years. So over a century of legal history, legal research, legal data backs Westlaw. Okay. So that's how we can put these questions in. We've answered questions like this in the past. We know that attorneys are interested in those answers. So here we go. We're giving you the shortcut answer. Just take a look at the suggestions. And if you click on it, you're going to get the answer. All right. Now, this works not only for these easier questions like the elements of, and then insert whatever tort or crime you're looking at, but also for statute of limitations. They also get a lot more nuanced. For example, I'm going to go ahead and type in Title 2, difference, and then we see right out of the gate Title 2 and Title 3. What are the differences between Title 2 and Title 3? I know this is not exactly on point to your particular assignments, but if you were interested, you could easily see what the differences between Title II and Title III were simply by clicking right here. All right. Similarly, if I start typing in bankruptcy, I'm going to get some suggestions to answer some bankruptcy questions. All right. Really quick way of diving into the actual case law or statute that you're going to need to answer these particular questions. So if you have a question you can formulate, try putting it into West Search Plus. All right. That's right there. Okay. One quick note. If you are looking up the elements or something that might be a little bit more nuanced to a jurisdiction, make sure you click on this gray box to change your jurisdiction. And you can do this, and you should do this for any search you have that's going to be nuanced for a particular state or a federal court or circuit. Just know that doing it in the foreground is doing it before you start your search is going to be one way of doing it. I'm going to show you how you can also change jurisdictions after you've submitted your query. Okay, I'm going to leave it as is right now. We got elements. We looked up that all state, all federal right here. This magnifying glass is basically your enter button where you're going to start your searches. All right. So let's jump back to the slides. And you can see here what we went over already. You know about citations. You can just put in the citations. You know about questions. And I mentioned key terms, but I'm definitely going to come back to it because key terms is how you're going to start most of your legal research. Okay. You're going to be given a fact pattern. You're going to be given an assignment. You're going to be given something with certain details that you're going to need to suss out what those key terms are so that you can create a good search. So I got a little practice prompt here. Let me show this. Oop. All right. So I got a little practice prompt here. Take 30 seconds, read what I've posted up here. I'm going to get sorry, just letting some more people in. I'm going to drop into chat a handout that I have for you all. Towards the end of this training, I'm going to put in an attendance link, and then to click it, your attendance will be recorded. But read this. Know that what we're doing is we're looking for key terms because we want to start with secondary sources. Secondary sources are anything that's going to discuss or analyze our primary authority. You don't need to go to case law and start fresh. You don't need to read a statute and try and decipher what's being said. More than likely, and especially if you're in your 1L year, this first year of law school, you're going to be given settled law. Theoretically, you're given settled law. So somebody has already looked at the cases, the statutes, the regulations that you're working on, and they are going to go ahead and discuss the context, analyze the application, whatever it is. More than likely, another legal professional out there has already looked at it. Don't reinvent the wheel. Borrow from their immense knowledge and then go to a secondary source and learn about that legal issue. Okay. So that's what our goal is right now. Take a look. I'm not going to call on anyone or ask any questions, but how would you start a search that pertain to this. Now go ahead and take like 30 seconds. I've been yammering on, and I'll come back and we'll go over this. Okay. So I won't ask the question, but I'm wondering if you all feel like you're pretty confident with the terms that you chose to see if you would be able to find some good secondary sources. Remember, that's our goal. Here are some things that I took a look at. I noticed that it's a city. So it's a government entity that's operating this park that's for the public and it's designed for children. So all those are very key terms that I'm going to want to consider in my search. I'm also noting that they failed to include any accessibility features for children who might have mobility issues. Okay. Now I know, given my background, I know that this is a Title II claim. For those of you who are working on a Title III claim, follow along with me, but instead of Title II, try Title III and see where that gets you. But I'm going to use some of these terms and we're going to take a look at what this looks like on Westlaw. All right. I already queued up some stuff here. Let me go ahead and move this bar. Okay. So note in the West Search Plus bar, our search bar, I put in children, accessibility, playground, and because I knew it was Title II, Title II. This is what we call a plain language or a natural language search. A plain language or natural language search is going to yield a lot of results and actually 95 secondary sources. That's not too bad. Okay. 95 secondary sources is not terrible. A lot of times you're going to run into the issue where you're going to find 10,000 plus results. Now we're obviously going to have to filter those down. Even with 95, we're going to use the filters. But just know that here's the net that I cast, and it's pretty full of all sorts of stuff we're going to have to parse through, and we'll use filters right here on the side. But before I do that, before I move to the filters, I want to show you a quick type of searching that some of you I know have already worked with, but some I know that you haven't. It's called Boolean searching. We have natural or plain language search right here on screen. A Boolean search is going to be something a little more tailored to what you're looking for specifically. So natural language search, think of it as casting a wide net, getting a bunch of results and then filtering down. With a Boolean search, instead of casting a net, it's more like using a spear gun or spear fishing. It's a lot more directed, and theoretically, a lot more pointed results are going to get found. Okay, so if we take a look here, I'm going to change windows. I use those same terms, but I used a Boolean search, as you can see, as indicated by this ADV. Now, you don't have to type this. This will pop up immediately once you've already been using some of these connectors and expanders, and I'll show you where those are. But these connectors and expanders create this Boolean search that tell Westlaw specifically what I'm looking for. In this case, I'm asking for any results that have children in it, great. Or accessibility is in the same paragraph, that's what that /p is, as playground, which is also in the same paragraph as Title II, and Title II is in quotes to indicate I want that specific phrase. All right, so let's go over here. As you can see with this particular search, this Boolean search, instead of 95 results, like we found over here with the plain language search, I got 19, okay? 19 results that include children, but then more importantly, they have accessibility, playground, and Title II all in the same paragraph. If they're all in the same paragraph, the likelihood of them discussing what I want them to discuss is a lot greater. All right. So I'm going to show you where to find the different connectors and expanders right now. If you go to the right of this magnifying glass, there's an advanced button. Now, the advanced button leads you to a form field version of a Boolean search, which is fine. I prefer to just type out my connectors and expanders inside of the search bar itself. So go to search tips, go to Boolean terms and connectors, and then take a look at all the connectors and expanders that you have the ability to create these different Boolean searches with. I will note the same sentence. You can get things in the same sentence. The caveat being, if you try to put too much in the same sentence, you're probably not going to end up with a lot of results, at which point you're going to want to just play around with it and see what you can do to edit that particular search. I love in the same paragraph because, more like I said earlier, if I find these terms in the same paragraph, they're likely talking about things that I'm interested in. Okay. Another one that I use pretty frequently is the root expander. Okay. For example, if I typed in, sorry, people are still coming in. If I type in the word employ and then an exclamation point, and I include that in my search, any word that starts with employ, and I'll type it up here just so you can see what it looks like. Any word that starts with employ is going to be included in my search results. That means employer, employee, employed, employs, employing. The list goes on. Any word with employ is now included in that search. Okay. So when I said you could add things that make things a little too narrow in a Boolean search, you can also expand them. And that's what this exclamation point is going to do, right? We're going to get more results because instead of just employ or employer, whatever the keyword is, we're now opening up to other variants that start with employ. I'm not going to talk too much more about Boolean search other than to say, you want to be able to master Boolean by the end of next semester. It's a good idea to start thinking about how you would employ these different connectors and expanders in your searches now, because they really will get you to what you need a lot more quickly. And that's what you want, right? You want to save time on your legal research. And this is a fantastic way to do that. All right. Okay, so that's enough about Boolean searching. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to email me, but you can dive deeper under advanced or search tips. All right, now let's go back to our original search where we used a natural language, plain language search, and we found 95 secondary sources. Now, secondary sources, like I said earlier, that's definitely where you want to be. You want to find secondary sources and find out what other legal professionals are saying about the law that you're looking for, okay? Or about that legal issue, or about anything that you're doing your search on. More than likely, especially in your 1L year, you're going to have somebody who's already discussed it. And here we have this Children Accessibility Playground Title II results page. We have a lot of stuff going on. We need to filter down. So from the content types, I went to secondary sources, then I went to filters, and it leads us to this page here. Do yourself a favor, click and make sure that this is turned on so you see that green with the white check mark. All right. If you don't, that's fine. Just know that anytime you click one of these radio buttons here, that's what these are, it's going to refresh the page. I don't know about your Wi-Fi. Sometimes my Wi-Fi is a little slow. I'd rather just apply one single page refresh all at once. And that's what this allows you to do. You turn this on. Now you can apply whatever you want all at once. All right. So I'm going to take this off. We're not going to go over all of these filters, but I will note search within results. Fantastic tool. I use this almost every time in practice when I'm trying to learn about a legal issue that's new to me. I will note that for you that I didn't put city up here, even though city is at the crux of our legal issue. I like to put contextual terms in the search within results. Okay, so Children Accessibility Playground Title II, we get where we're going with that, with these 95 results, but to narrow it down, to make this even more specific to our prompt, I would probably put city in here, okay? I'd probably put city in here and get all of the results that just talk about city. Note here, There's a show connectors and expanders. This is a gentle reminder that if you're searching within results, why not be a little bit more specific? Why not target specifically what you're looking for? So if you can, try and put in a Boolean search so then you get what you're looking for within that big bag of results or that net of results you have. I'm actually going to clear that. I'm not going to search within results right now. I just want to, in the interest of time, I want to move forward here. I mentioned you can change the jurisdiction after you've done your search, and you can do that here. You can also have a date range. So if you're looking only for a specific time frame, you can do so here. Publication type. I will stop here and let this person in, but also point out a couple of my favorite publications and some publications that I'm going to recommend. Texts and treatises. That's going to be something that I always recommend. I like the way the material's presented. It's a lot more digestible. So to rephrase that, it's not going to be overwhelming. I'll get a good understanding of that legal issue. And if there's exceptions or if there's questions about applicability or constitutionality, I can usually find those in subsequent sections. So I'm not overwhelmed. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you don't like to be overwhelmed with information, texts and treatises are probably a pretty good place to start. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, American law reports. American law reports can be pretty robust in their content. But having said that, they're also super useful because they have so much good information. I like to turn to American law reports once I have kind of the base understanding of that particular legal issue. Okay. So text and treatises, American law reports, those are the ones that I recommend you start with. And as you get familiar with Westlaw, you're inevitably going to find some publications that you like, and then you're going to want to go to directly. And I highly recommend that because that means A, you're actually getting proficient at the tool, but B, you know what you like and you're going there and getting the information a lot more quickly. I'm the same way. California jurisprudence is a tool that I use whenever I'm starting a brand new legal issue for that's unknown to me. You know, I usually turn there for California type legal issues. American jurisprudence, AmJur, that's another one that I'm going to recommend. And if you are doing anything with federal, like Title II or Title III, take a look at AmJur. American jurisprudence has fantastic articles on all things pertaining to the American law. Some others that I'll note: the Rutter's Practice Guide series on whatever litigation or whatever motion. Take a look at those because they have not only how you do something, but the why, which I think is pretty insightful when you're learning to file motions, for example. Witkins is a great tool as well if you're working in California. And jury instructions. Jury instructions is not something that a lot of people talk about, but think about it this way. When you are working with your supervising attorney or you're working with a client and you're trying to figure out if they have a valid claim, know that a jury is ultimately going to have to make that decision, or a trier of fact, and they're going to use jury instructions, which are essentially a checklist. Okay. And if you can structure your legal argument to mirror what the jury has to look at, you're going to be that much closer to winning their approval, winning their favor. Okay. So for example, if you structure a negligence claim and you look at the jury instructions, well, the elements are generally not, this is a big, broad statement, but there's a duty, there's a breach, and there are damages. So if you can structure it by saying, okay, there's a duty here, they had a duty to do this, X, 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 fill in the blanks. And then the defendant breached this duty, and then lay that out, and then say, and there were damages. Boom. Now you've met the jury instructions criteria, and hopefully will win that favorable judgment. Okay. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. AmJur, CalJur, practice guide, Rutter practice guide series, Witkins, and jury instructions. Those are my recommendations for good publication. All right. In the interest of time, I'm just going to choose CalJur. Now we're kind of going off strict. We're not looking specifically for the content, but this is more the methodology of how we find secondary sources. we apply some fantastic filters. We get down to, and in this case, we're just going to get 2 results. All right. So I'm going to get those 2 results. Now, whenever you, I'm going to rephrase that. Personally, I like to work with 20 or under results. Okay, that's a good round number for me. I think 20 different articles to review is going to be more manageable than, for example, 95. So I chose 20 for a couple different reasons, not just because it's arbitrary, but you'll usually get 20 articles per page, right? Unless you change that. I start out with 20 articles. If I get 20 or under or fewer, I click select all items, and then I add to a folder. All right. Adding to a folder means I don't have to do that search again. Adding to a folder means I can access everything just at the top of the page up here, just wherever I add to folder. I haven't added it yet, but if I do that, I've already added this to a folder, so spoiler alert. But I have access to that all up here. And these are the documents that are right there. Okay. So pretty quick way to add materials to a folder. I do make a recommendation that if you, when you create a folder, create the folder or structure the folders in a way that discuss the legal issue. Okay. Rather than here's a folder for my legal research and writing class, or here's a folder for torts, do it by here's the negligence folder. Here is the defamation folder. Here is a slander folder. Here is a burglary folder. And I'll tell you why at the end, but it's just going to structure things a lot easier and help you find additional recommendations. Okay. The second thing you do once you have a good manageable number of secondary sources is you're going to go ahead and read the document. I'm just going to click here and we're going to take a quick look. Okay. I'm getting ready to drop something in chat. That's what I'm doing here. Okay. So once you find a secondary source, you got to read. You got to figure out what that legal issue is. You got to understand the nuances so then you can make the proper arguments. All right. So you find an article. This one here is discrimination in government funded program generally. I love that generally because then I know that subsequent sections are going to give me a little bit more information on what's going on. Okay. So you read the document, you find out what's good in any, I'm just going to choose this at random. But, in addition to educating myself on this particular legal issue, I'm also going to find primary authority. And that's what you want. You want to find good primary authority that you can cite to strengthen your legal argument, right? And note here, comunidad. So if I love this statement, don't copy the secondary source. Don't quote the secondary source. Go right to the law. Go right to that law that the court is going to have to look at and say, oh, that's the law. I got to follow that. All right. Secondary sources are not binding. They may be persuasive, but they're not binding. But the case law, the statute, the regulation, that is going to be primary authority that so long as it's valid, and we'll go look at that right now, you're going to be able to cite to it and you're going to be in a good position for your argument. All right, so let's jump back to the slides here, do a little recap. Natural plain language search we looked at, Boolean search. I'm going to quickly tell you about precision search, and then we're going to move on just in the interest of time. Let's go here. So do I have it up? Nope. All right, so I'm going to go back here. Precision research. Basically what precision research is finding cases. Okay, so not secondary sources, but if you already know the law, if you're already familiar, precision research is going to help you find cases that can be, that you can look for based on and you can see it down here, their different attributes. Legal issues, fact patterns, material facts, cause of action, motion type, all of that stuff you can now do searches for, okay? So if you want to look for a case that has to do with extreme and outrageous conduct in the employer-employee context, Let's start typing it out. Extreme and outrageous. So I'm going to go ahead and just click this for an IIED, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We get 588 cases. Still too many, right? We're going to want to narrow this down. Here are the filters that you'll see when you are in the cases content type. Okay. So we go to party type and we look for employer or employee. There we go. And you keep adding filters till you get a good manageable number of cases that either mirror your fact pattern or that have the different legal issue, fact pattern, cause of action, motion, all those different attributes that are relevant for your particular search. You can quickly find cases that point you that direction. Okay. All right. Secondary. So here's a quick recap. Secondary sources are going to help us understand what those legal points of law are. Just go here quick. And inevitably, we're going to find some valid primary authority that we want to cite to. Primary authority comes in the form of case law, statutes, or regulations. This should all be a recap for you all. Again, the same thing. So now that you have primary authority, what do you do with it? I'm going to drop a document into chat for everyone. This is kind of going to recap all the stuff we're going to talk about in the next 10, 15 minutes, but I'm going to be going quickly and I just want to make sure that you all follow along. Let's take a look at the things that we need to do once we have that primary authority. We need to ensure that our cases or our statutes or our primary authority in general is still valid. And we're going to use KeyCite to do that. Once you have a case that you know you can cite to because it's still valid, we're going to look at Headnotes. And if you're looking at statutes, we're not going to have time to get to statutes, unfortunately, but if you get a statute, if you're working with a statute, go to notes of decision. Okay, notes of decision are what courts are saying about your statute in regard to specific aspects. So if you're looking for the constitutionality or you're looking for different aspects from your perspective, you'll want to take a look at notes of decision for any statute. I always look at notes of decision if I get a statute. Okay. And then we're going to quickly look at expanding your legal research. Maybe your argument is okay, but you could use some more primary authority. I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to wrap up with making sure that we got everything we need from our search. Okay, so let's look at KeyCite. Here are all the flags that you'll find on Westlaw. What is KeyCite? It is a citator service, which is going to help you understand what issues you might encounter by citing to this case. Yellow flag case is basically another court has looked at the case you're looking at and has said, you know, the facts are different, or has said, we don't want to apply the law because it'll expand the law. And I'll show you an example right here. This Comunidad case we mentioned. Comunidad, we see that flag. We can see a quick, brief note on what's going on with this flag. This Heflin case has cited to Comunidad, but it's given it negative treatment. And we'll dig to negative treatment here. We'll dig into negative treatment here. And we'll find that this Heflin case cited to Comunidad, but they said our facts are different, so we're not going to apply this law. That's what that distinguished by is. Anytime you get a yellow flag, you should definitely go to negative treatment and review to see what the courts are saying about your case. Okay. You can absolutely cite to a yellow flag case, but it's up to you to decide if that's the smartest move, given the litigation or given whatever your argument is. All right. So let's jump back. I'll ask the question, but you don't need to answer. Can you cite to a red flag case? The answer is it depends. That should always be your lawyer answer. It depends. Look at it this way. You're going to see a red flag case for any case that has no longer good law for at least 1 point of law. That means if something's overruled in its entirety, 5 points of law, they're all overruled. No good points of law, you're going to see a red flag, and you probably should not cite to that case. You'll want to take a look to see what the arguments are, but if there's no good points of law, why are you citing to it? The other instance you'll see with the red flag case is if it's overruled in part. Again, 5 points of law, 3 are overruled. That means 2 points of law are still good to cite to, so long as they are applicable to your argument. If the 3 points of law that were overruled was what you were looking for, you don't really have much to hang your hat on there, right? But on the other hand, if you have 2 points of law that are interesting to you, that are relevant to you, then you can still possibly cite to them. You're just going to want to dig a little deeper. All right. A red stripe flag is brand new to Westlaw Precision as of this year. It's I think it's pretty lucky if you find a red flag, because just like the red flag up here, a red stripe flag is going to tell you when something's partially overruled. So a red flag will do that. But if you see a red stripe flag, you're going to know that you can see specifically what's been affected. For example, I'm going to go to this red stripe flag. I'm going to note it was overruled by Dobbs. Nothing crazy there. We know that. You can go to negative, and you should go to negative treatment to see how things play out there. But if you see a red stripe flag, you can quickly go to the document navigation tool right here, go to overruled in part, and then jump directly to the affected portion of your case, okay? If I wanted to cite to something within this affected portion, now I got to do a little bit more due diligence and figure out what's going on. However, if I wanted to cite to something away from there, this case still might be valid for my purposes. It's up to you as the attorney or the law student to make that decision. A blue stripe flag indicates document has been appealed to the U.S. court, so something is on flux. You'll want to take a look to make sure that things don't change by the time you file your court document or submit your memo. Overruling risk warning basically says the case that you're looking at is relying on a red flagged or a red stripe flag case. So there's an issue up here that doesn't necessarily get demarcated in the case you're looking at, but that case, the overruling risk warning old peer, will tell you that it's relying on some case that has a red flag. And then just like the red stripe flag, if you go to the document navigation tool, you're going to be able to see where your case has been affected with that overruling risk warning. All right. So let's, actually, before I jump to the next section, if you have any questions, I dropped that handout into chat. So you should be able to reference that. But you can also just click here on the Powered by Keysight, and it'll show you what's going on with the different flags. All right. So let's jump to Headnotes and Headnotes, and then we'll also expand our research and we'll wrap up and get you out of here. Okay. So for Headnotes, let's go to the side here. You can see on the table of contents, we'll just go to Headnotes. All right. Headnotes are important. Write down Headnotes. You don't need to write down what I'm about to say next, but get the idea of it. Headnotes are single points of law drafted by Thomson Reuters attorney editors, and they've rephrased them so that we can more readily understand what the court's talking about, so that we can understand the court's point of law. This theoretically is a paraphrase of what the court's saying. If we jump to what the court's saying, we have this information here. Now, you're smart individuals, you're in law school, you can figure it out, but an attorney editor already has read this point of law and has given you a quick paraphrase of it, okay? Now, if you've picked up what I'm putting down, this is a paraphrase of the court's opinion. Don't highlight this. Don't highlight this and put it into your memo. This is not part of the case. This is drafted by a Thomson Reuters attorney editor who has nothing to do with this case. They just wrote this to help us understand what the court's talking about, okay? And in doing so, we now can understand what the court's point of law is through here, but this is the section that you want to highlight, Okay, this is the section that you want to put into your memo, your argument section, so that you can cite to this court properly. While I have this open, you see how it says save to folder? I'm a huge fan of folders. I'm going to show you how folders are going to help you find more case law or other resources, but don't save chunks of text to folder. Don't save chunks of text. You're going to get the text, you're going to get a citation, none of the context. If you come back to something and it just has that quote, are you going to remember what that's all about? Maybe you will. A safer bet, though, is if you add a note or you highlight and then you just add the whole document to a folder. And theoretically, you would have done that from the list of 20. Okay. Now, while I'm here, this is a quick aside. I'm just going to highlight these two words. Take a look at copy with reference. I hit copy with reference. It's going to pop up right now. Text is copied. I'm going to use this West Search Plus bar as a clipboard. There's the text I copied. And right below that is the Blue Book citation. Okay. Now, I know none of you would do this, but you're going to want to learn how to actually Blue Book rather than relying on a tool like this to help you out. You don't want to be in the position of going into your first internship or, your first courtship, and they ask you to do this Blue Booking and you ask, where's Westlaw? And they don't have it. Now you got to figure out on the job, not a position you want to be in. Learn how to do Blue Booking in law school. Double check using copy with reference. And I'll show you again. I'm on a PC, left mouse button, copy with reference. You can change the jurisdiction right here. But a pretty cool tool to help you get better at Blue Booking and save you some time. All right. Another tool I'm going to show you, and then we'll move back to Headnotes. Open this window up, and you can just click on that arrow or click on notes, outline, QuickCheck. We're looking at outline. This is the doorway to Outline Builder. I've already created an outline here. You do so just by clicking on a full page, and it'll take you to a whole page of outlines you can create. But basically, these outlines are going to be for your legal arguments. So I created title 2 elements, and then I put at the top each of the different elements. Now I can just copy text and drag it into the proper place. For example, if I just did this, I'm just going to highlight that. You can either add it to outline here, but if you open up this window, you're going to be able to drag it just to wherever you want in your document. You drop it down there. When you get a pretty full list of quotes with citations in your outline, go ahead and download it or email it to yourself, and you'll have a Word document with all of those quotations and all of those citations all ready for you to go. Okay. So you can actually build your argument around those quotations. I know some students have basically just copied and pasted and dropped it in all at once. So then they don't have to keep toggling back and forth to Westlaw and the Word document, but it's all contained right here in Outline Builder. All right, let's jump back to the Headnotes. So I told you Headnotes are going to help you understand that point of law a lot more quickly. Fantastic. They can also help you find additional points of authority. If your quote isn't as strong as you'd like it, or you want more case law to back up your particular argument, take a look at this. We're just using Headnote number 1 as an example. If I love this Headnote and I want more cases, right below it, 84 cases cite to this Headnote. And before I jump off, actually, I'm going to open this up in another tab. Our attorney editors, in addition to drafting these Headnotes to help us out, they also categorize them. So if you like the topic, so here we have federal courts as the broad topic, and it gets more and more granular as we go down to constitutional questions. If you like this particular topic, you can find other Headnotes that are similarly categorized right here. Okay, so let's take a look at these 84 cases and see what's going on. So Gallagher case has given this negative treatment They're overruling recognized by, and you can see all the different treatments on the side here. They talk about head note number 1. That's not a surprise since these are the 84 cases that talk about head note number 1. And they discuss it with a depth of treatment of 4 green bars. 4 green bars is basically a lot of discussion. 1 green bar, not so much. And then the 2 and 3, anywhere in between. You usually want to go for more green bars because you know there's going to be more analysis, more for you to work with there. Okay. And of course, you can also just scope out the head notes just by hovering over these. But whenever you have a legal issue that you identified within a case, look at the head notes, because the head notes are not only going to help you understand that legal issue, but they're going to point you to other cases or point you to other head notes, which gives you a way to expand your legal research. Okay. So that's those 2 down. And then we're just going to wrap up with, how do you know when you're done with your legal research? A good rule of thumb is when you start doing the same searches or different searches and you keep getting the same results, you probably hit a good point where you can start drafting your argument, right? You're not finding anything new. It's all looking the same and it's a lot. Start doing the drafting, start writing. If you followed my advice and started creating folders and organize them by the legal issues, here's one way to help figure out if you're done with your research. I was working on collateral order doctrine for a client. Let's take a look at this folder. All of the materials in this folder are related to the collateral order doctrine in some form. Just like anything else online, when you look up documents in Westlaw, when you spend time reviewing documents in Westlaw, or when you add things to folders or notes or highlights, that's all monitored so that Westlaw can provide additional recommendations. If you put things into a folder and you organize or structure them by their legal issue, go over to folder analysis, open that up. Westlaw has cross-referenced all the documents and found the common legal issues and said, hey, we understand that you're looking at these different legal issues, and you can see them here, but you didn't open up these documents. You didn't look at these recommendations. So now you have even more way to see, oh, I haven't found everything just yet. So a way to expand, but also if you don't find many recommendations, you're probably good to go, right? Westlaw has looked at your folder and said, wow, you got all of it. So another way to start wrapping up your legal research so you can write confidently. The final way, and I'm also going to drop something into chat here. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to put the attendance key into chat. But while I'm doing that, the last thing I want to show you is QuickCheck. Just like folder analysis, you have a tool that's going to be able to review your document. If you go to any Westlaw page, you're going to see QuickCheck. You upload your document. So you got to have an argument section. It's got to have section headings. It's got to have content. You got to have text in there, and you got to have citations. If you do that and you have enough for QuickCheck to work on, you're going to get a report that looks like this. This report and all these section headings are based off of the document I uploaded, which looks like this. You can see here we have, you should be able to see it now, right? Yeah, you should be able to see this. We have a non-resident alien's choice of American form is entitled little weight. You can see that here. If you look right under there, these are cases that I have not cited to, but that QuickCheck has identified as being super relevant to our legal argument. If I run into a case that's like this one, Piper Aircraft, this is cite from a high court, the Supreme Court, in fact, and it's frequently cited. Why didn't I include it in my document? Maybe I just missed it. That's, now I'm glad that I used QuickCheck because I can get pointed to these high profile cases that are cited by other attorneys, and it's from the Supreme Court. Whew, thank goodness I used it. Or maybe I saw it and said, I don't think it's relevant as I want it to be. So I skipped it intentionally. Either way, I know I've had QuickCheck take a look at the document and then tell me what I might be missing. So QuickCheck, folder analysis, all fantastic tools that you have at your disposal. I know that was a lot. I apologize. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Again, I'm dropping in the attendance link. You should just be able to click on that, and then your attendance is going to be recorded. You may have to sign in, but if you have any questions, I'm going to stick around a little bit. Otherwise, feel free to email me at mark.fong. I appreciate your time. I hope you all have a good rest of your day. I'll stick around for another 4 or 5 minutes, and thank you all.